Everybody. Today, I'm excited to be joined with Marjorie Taylor Greene, former Congresswoman, full-time American patriot. Appreciate you for joining, and yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a lot of questions I want to ask, and I know a lot of people are wondering a lot of things about you, why you left, etc. But I really want to start it at the beginning. I've never heard you talk about this, and I've never heard anyone ask about it. Like before you ran for Congress, whatever year that was, who were you, and then what inspired you to run for Congress in the first place?
Oh, thank you for asking. So I ran for Congress in 2020. That was my first campaign year. Before that, I had never been to a Republican Party meeting. I was not an active person in the GOP. I had never held office before, not even a local office. I wasn't in the state legislature. I owned a family construction company that I still own. Grew up in the business. It was my mom and dad's business. And then after graduating college, my former husband and we bought the company from my parents and spent time, really a lot of our time running our construction company and raising 3 children. And so before 2020, Marjorie Taylor Greene was just a very normal American and mom. And so what led me to want to run for office is I had over the years gotten very angry at our government. Anytime our business suffered, like it was always because of bad government decisions that put us in recessions or hurt the economy. So I was well in tuned to politics from that angle. Also being a mother, raising 3 children, I had become very invested in what the future of our country looked like because obviously my children need a future in our country. And so when Donald Trump ran for president in 2016, that was the first time I heard a politician speak in ways that were very appealing to me. He spoke similar to most men that I knew. He spoke plain language. He didn't talk like a politician. He stood out on that presidential campaign stage. But also, he talked about things like weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and how we should have never gone to war in the Middle East. And he spoke about issues that were, I think, really important to the average American and were appealing. And so that is what started to pique my interest in learning more about politics. And it was from there that I got deeper and deeper and deeper into learning more about politics, political procedure, legislation. Even I'm very pro Second Amendment, and that was an area I got interested in. And to the point where I decided in 2019, it was during 2019, I said, okay, if I'm going to complain about politics, if I'm going to expect changes, I'm going to have to step up and do my part. And so I decided to do what I thought was the ultimate right thing to do, was take my opinions and my words and put them into action and actually run for Congress. So I did that in 2020, and my first day in office was January 3rd, 2021, 3 days before January 6th.
Yeah, that's crazy timing. And I saw you share a clip on Twitter of Trump debating Jeb Bush, and you were like, this is the Trump I like, the one that was against the wars. And I saw Trump say, I think it was earlier this month, Jeb Bush likes me. Like he's been really nice to me the past 6 months. It's like, I wonder why. On that note, I wanted to ask you real quick, and you could say anything about that as well. What was it like running for office? Like, did lobbyists approach you? Did the GOP approach you? Did they want you to do certain things, like any specific like donors? Because I know you do need money somehow to run for even local elections. So what was that process like for you?
That process was eye-opening, shocking, and one of the biggest learning. It was all a learning process. So just for everyone's awareness, when I declared myself a candidate for Congress, I was the most naive person. So imagine, it's kind of like being a new kid at school. Your family moves to a new town. You know nothing about the town. You don't know anyone that lives there. And you go to school on the first day of school. You've never been in the school. You don't know anyone in the school. You don't know your school teacher. You don't even know how to get to the bathroom. That was me running for Congress. So I literally like signed up myself on the Secretary of State website. I had to find campaign consultants. It was an entire process. There was no directory like, hey, look, here's a whole bunch of campaign consultants you can pick from, and here's the people that will help you raise money. I didn't have that luxury because I didn't come up through the establishment. I was not establishment Republican. I was very much on the outside and someone they were trying to block from winning an election. So I ran against 8 men in a primary, all very respectable men. I wouldn't say a bad thing about any of them. And but it was because of my message that I overwhelmingly beat all of them. And that's how I got elected. I was saying in my campaign, and I think it was true pretty much the entire time I'm in Washington, literally saying what I think and feel, and staying true to myself. And the whole reasons why I was running for Congress. How did I fund it? I funded it mostly myself. I spent about a little more than $1 million, self-funded my congressional campaign. I know everyone thinks that I made all this money in Congress. That is not true. I had successfully had a very strong career before I decided to run for Congress. So as a candidate in 2020, I put my entire self out there. I put, not only was I running for Congress, I filled my campaign account with over $1 million of my own dollars. And I had to do some fundraising after that too, but it was difficult for me. I had, I think it was 34 Republican members of Congress had endorsed against me and had endorsed one of my main primary opponents, including Steve Scalise, the majority leader, and almost all of the Republican congressmen from the state of Georgia. I had all the state legislatures, except two in my district, had all endorsed my main primary opponent. And nearly every sheriff in the district had all endorsed my primary opponent. I had no help whatsoever from Washington, and no help from the NRCC, nothing. So I ran from the outside, and I won by pretty much over double digits.
Okay, so you get in office, right? You started catching my radar because the media was saying like you're the crazy one. She's talking about space lasers and she's a lunatic, and usually that means that you're not controlled, or at least you have a pulse. You're not just like reading scripts and stuff. So I instantly liked you. I was like, "Oh, she's like the fun one who's like saying what she actually thinks, not just reading the GOP script." So what was that like? Do you think that's why they did that? Like they came after you, like mainstream comedians and stuff, like they tried to make you into a caricature essentially. And looking at your Twitter and stuff, like it did kind of just appear like you were just winging it in a good way for me, maybe for them not. So what was that like? Like who was attacking you the hardest early on, and at what point did people in the GOP, whether it's Trump or anyone, like who was nice to you, who wasn't nice to you? Like walk me through that until we get to modern day. How did that start?
That was unbelievable. It was like, so I went from not being known at all, campaigning for Congress, winning an election, supporting the president without, and by the way, I won without his endorsement. I need to add that. In 2020, when I got elected, I did not have President Trump's endorsement through my entire primary, and through the primary runoff, which was 9 weeks long because of COVID. So and that was the main race. This is a very red district. So the primary and the runoff was the process. The Democrat candidate didn't matter. He literally dropped out after I won my primary runoff. And then it was after that, President Trump endorsed me when he had to. There was nobody else. So when I got to Washington, you're right. I had said all kinds of things all over social media because I was a normal person. I had read all kinds of stuff. I had looked into every what people call conspiracy theories. I had read them all. I had researched them. I was willing to talk about them. And when I got to Washington, D.C., the entire establishment had done their homework on me. and they had seen that I had talked about all kinds of stuff like 9/11. I had read Q post. I had talked about Q. I had talked about foreign wars. I didn't support foreign wars. I didn't support the military-industrial complex. I was in the lane of everything that you are not allowed to be and get elected. I was in that lane. And but also I really have to reiterate this. When I went into Congress, I was extremely naive. I had never been a politician before. I didn't have the top consultants like advising me and helping me. And I mean, I didn't even have a Wikipedia page. Somebody made a Wikipedia page on me and filled it with the most disgusting language and framed me so bad. They accused me of anti-Semitism, and I'll never forget. I think it was in January of 2021. I think it was like right off the bat. Somebody in the media took one of my posts from 2018 where I had been talking about a type of new technology that they were experimenting with that was actually fascinating, and it would harness the sun's energy and redirect it down to a basically like a receiver, and try to make it, try to create power with that. And I had looked that up and looked who had invested in it. And I was talking about the corruption in California, with the electric utility out there, and the former governor and their stock trades and things like that. And that's what this 2018 post was about. And this guy took it and he called it Jewish space lasers. And I never said Jewish space lasers. I had said that the company, one of the Rothschilds was on the board for this company. And at the time in 2018, I didn't even know the Rothschilds were Jewish. I literally didn't know and didn't care. But this is the framing they put on me, and they created this whole Jewish space laser story. And that one came out of nowhere for me. And then they labeled me anti-Semitic. And I was like, hold on, I don't hate anybody. I'm not anti-Semitic. Why would I be? I don't hate anybody for their identity. That doesn't matter to me. But that was the label that they instantly put on me. I mean, it happened. I wasn't even in Washington a few weeks, and that was the label they put on me. Well, I think everyone knows today that is the label that they try to destroy you with. And I think fast forward over 5 years later, people understand what that is. And it's completely wrong, And but it was like the intensity from the media and all the lies that were just constantly published every day. I couldn't keep up with it all. It was too much for me. I would take a story and email it to my attorney and say, can I sue them for this? And it was like every day I was sending a new article. And it was completely out of control. And at the same time, what a lot of people don't know is in 2021, going from, for me, it was actually started at the end of 2020, but it went up until April. My father was dying of cancer, and it was horrific. And so I was a brand new member of Congress, being attacked more than anyone else has ever been attacked in Congress every single day, day in and day out. But the only thing I cared about and could think about is my father was at home. My mother and my father were at home, and my dad was dying from brain cancer and had horrible surgeries, and the whole thing was terrible. And so I'm talking about, I was like, when you go swimming in the ocean and the waves are hitting you and knocking you down, and you can hardly get on your feet and you can hardly catch a breath. That was my first year in Congress. And so I look back at it and I'm still amazed I got through it. But at the same time, I wasn't perfect in what I said. I wasn't perfect in everything I did, but I was really going through a lot. And at the same time, our country was on lockdown with COVID. The whole world was upside down. And so it was a wild ride. And I can say, I think I got a fast track on how Washington works, and it literally happened to me in the first few months. They also kicked me off of committees. February, I think it was February 4th. So January 6th happened. That was my third day in Congress. January, I think it was the 12th, I had to vote no on impeachment for Trump. Nancy Pelosi tried to impeach Trump. January 12th, I voted no on that. And that was the same day my father had his second brain surgery to remove cancers and was never the same after that. And then it was within a few weeks after that, I think it was February 4th, they kicked me off of committees and were just saying the most unreal things about me. So it was like drinking through the most powerful water hose, and that was how it started.
No, I appreciate the detailed explanation. I got to play an ad real quick. I appreciate y'all. And then on the other end of that, I want to explain why I think they did all that to you. I think you know, but just maybe to hear it from someone else who had a similar experience, but maybe not as intense because I wasn't in Congress. So I'll tell you that on the other end. In a world where the money printers go brrr, and no matter which way we vote, it doesn't seem like any of them have the capacity to stop printing and spending trillions of dollars, inflating our currency, and then pathologically lying about it on television. It's smart to protect your savings with something outside of their control, like physical gold and silver from American Hartford Gold. Precious metals are real, tangible, and despite the tragedies of any economy, political system, or society, they always seem to stand the test of time. You can get gold and silver bars delivered straight to your home, or secure it in a tax-advantaged gold IRA. American Hartford Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of 5-star reviews. If you call right now and mention I sent you, you can get up to $20,000 in free silver on your first purchase. Give them a call at 844-399-2448 or text DREAM to 65532. That's 844-399-2448 or text DREAM to 65532. See if any of the packages or deals work for you, and it's never a bad idea to stock up on some gold and silver. Appreciate y'all. So I thought you were in Congress longer than that because I thought the smears came later, but they just came immediately, I guess, right when you got in. And I think the reason that they do that is because they know who is and isn't controlled. So for instance, if you're not taking a lot of money from lobbyists, if you're not taking money from AIPAC, the word, they're trying to look for an angle to say you're an anti-Semite to try to smear you. And as Charlie Kirk would always call it, moral blackmail. Like, you're trying to like question my character in order to push me in a direction to get you to do certain things. For me, it was 2019. I just realized they were passing these anti-Semitism hate speech rules, like the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. And I read it similar to you. Like I wasn't really thinking of race and religion much or who was who. I was just more like, this is crazy. It talks about Jesus. Now it's policing biblical speech. It says you can't talk about who controls media companies or who has dual loyalty. Like I just thought it was a crazy infringement on the First Amendment. And as soon as I started talking about it in Republican media and circles where, I got invited to the White House in 2018, actually. I'm part Puerto Rican, so they gave me like the Hispanic in. So I was there. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, dude, my friend told me not to book you for this media thing. I was like, why? They're saying you're far right and anti-Semitic. And I was like, dude, I feel, especially at the time, I wasn't even that conservative. Now I think I am. I'm older. I was in my 20s, but I was like, why am I far right? Like, I feel like I'm the nicest one out of everybody. And they're like, oh, it's because you said the thing about Israel. I was like, I didn't say anything about Israel. I talked about the speech laws. So they knew that I wasn't going to completely play ball. And you're starting to see it break down now. I saw some lady say, she works for some newspaper. She was like, Kana and Massey are huge anti-Semites. And I'm like, they're talking about Jeffrey Epstein files. So now that's anti-Semitism too. I think they probably just knew that you were not for sale on that topic specifically. So that's the angle to try to morally blackmail you into probably voting for foreign aid and speech rules and stuff.
Yep. They try to destroy you. And so the pressure they put on you as a member of Congress, they write horrible, they have terrible articles written about you. They plant those stories. They plant the stories in the media goes along with it. Then they make you so toxic that you can't, it makes it hard to fundraise from big donors. Luckily I was able to fundraise small dollar donors. That was 96 or 97% of my donations were always small dollar donors because I couldn't get the big dollar donors. I refused PAC money. I wouldn't take PAC money. I never had APAC. And the Republican Jewish Coalition, they were against me when I was a candidate in 2020. So yeah, I had that whole, I guess, Israel First crowd was against me from the very start. And that was before people were really aware that that was really a thing. I will tell you something interesting. During my time in Congress, so I was there only 5 years, and we voted on, I think it's 22 or 23 resolutions denouncing anti-Semitism, denouncing it in some sort of way. The resolution would all be slightly different depending on what was going on, whether if it was someone had been killed and denouncing anti-Semitism. But that was like a routine vote, but we never voted on resolutions like denouncing violent crimes against white people or denouncing anything. We never denounced anything else, hardly ever. But over 22 times in 5 years, Congress had to take this vote denouncing, and it was the last couple of votes I started refusing to vote for it.
Right.
And that was in 2025. And I'll also say that's when things really, the entire machine there really started turning against me, was when I started refusing to vote for those.
Yeah, so breaking that down, I've always found that wild. So denouncing pretty much means nothing. Like I denounce Marjorie Taylor Greene, bad girl, bad lady. I denounce Trump, like denouncing. It just means like you're bad, I'm better than you. It doesn't do anything. And then a resolution also literally doesn't do anything either. So it's like two words that do nothing. I read one of them because it was for anti-Semitism. It didn't pass through the left until they added a bunch of other groups like Native American and women. And by the end of it, it was just this whole hodgepodge of like liberal, like we denounce everything, like you said, except for like white Christian. And then Republicans signed it because they don't want to look anti-Semitic. And then I saw Pam Bondi call a Jewish Democrat an anti-Semite for not signing the resolution. And she freaked out and said, "How dare you? My family was in the Holocaust." And I was like, dude, like Pam Bondi thinks can tell a Jewish woman she's anti-Semitic because she didn't sign a denouncing resolution. Like, do Republicans not realize this is what our party's doing? It's crazy.
It is crazy. Well, then they accuse those Jewish people that won't go along with it either. They call them self-hating Jews and accuse them of hating their own self. It's completely wrong. But it's basically an enforcement and a test, making sure that everyone stays in line, denouncing anti-Semitism. Same thing with voting for foreign aid for Israel. I was against all foreign aid. It wasn't that I was totally against Israel. I was against funding all the foreign countries. I just don't think we should give them our hard-earned tax dollars. I think everybody's tax dollars should stay here in America and fix our problems. Health insurance, for the love of God, costs too much money. Why can't we fix that? Any problem that we have, our tax dollars should fix our problems. And I had introduced amendment after amendment every time the NDAA funding came up, defunding. My amendment would defund the money to go to Israel, but I also included Egypt. I included all kinds of countries. And that also caught the attention of the powers that be, maybe the powers that are really in control. And they did not like it. And so there's literally very few. I'll tell you this. Here's the count. On my last amendment that I got, it's hard to get these amendments to the floor for a vote. You have to fight to get them through. So I didn't always get those amendments to the floor for a vote, but the last one I did was earlier in the year in 2025, and it was completely defunding Israel. And I only got 6 votes on that amendment, including my own. So it was only 6. It was me and Thomas Massey on the Republican side, and then 4 Democrats like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, 2 others. Not AOC, though. Pay attention there. She didn't vote for it. So, but there were only 6 people that were willing to defund Israel.
I saw this clip of Nancy Pelosi where she's on stage with Chuck Schumer and an Israeli American billionaire donor of the Democratic Party. And she says, if our capital crumbled to the ground, we'd still be giving aid. And she goes, and I don't even call it aid, but our support to Israel. And like, what is that pressure like? And is there any other lobbies, like say, like the pharmaceutical industry or oil or anybody that kind of like behind the scenes, they're putting pressure on you? Because I'm just watching it and it's like, obviously, there's only 6 people who wanted to fund it. Pretty much people know that that's like a game over for their career and a lot of these mega donors. So much so that Nancy Pelosi's on stage, not just saying she supports them, but she's just like, if our country crumbles, we'll still be giving you money. It's like, are you okay, lady? Like, that's not a normal thing for an American citizen to say.
No, it's not. Well, here's what's interesting, and I think people have no idea about this. The Israel lobby is the strongest lobby in Washington, D.C. I would say it's stronger than the military industrial complex, which is a very strong lobby. It's stronger than Big Pharma. It's stronger than pretty much any lobby. And it's not just official registered lobbyists that I would put in that category. I think Jewish people represent, what is it, 2 to 3% of the American population. They're a very small minority, but as serving as a member of Congress, I think I saw more Jewish people at most events, pretty much anywhere. They were very represented in many different ways. I'm talking about donors, people that they just come out of the blue and befriend you, and make sure to talk about the issues that are important. That, we always must fight for Israel. They tell you we must protect Israel at all costs. Israel is surrounded by its enemies. And this is routine language. They're also very embedded in Christian gatherings in Washington, D.C., prayer groups, any type of organized Christian event. There's almost always someone from the Jewish community, representing Israel, really. And that's something that began to be interesting to me. So from the start, I would say for any member of Congress, you're courted by the Jewish community, by the Israel community, more so than you are by your own district, literally. You don't see people from your own district coming on trips to Washington, D.C. that much. You might get the Chamber of Commerce from a couple of different counties. They'll come up maybe once a year. But outside of that, you do not see your own voters, your own constituents that you represent from your own district. And that is a major problem. So when you elect your member of Congress, they spend the bulk of their year in Washington, D.C., and they're not at home with you, driving around the district, deeply aware of the problems of the district. They're in Washington, D.C., and the main people that they are talking to, eating lunch with, eating dinner with, going to cocktail parties with, and beyond are establishment Washington, uniparty, lobbyists, big industries, and very focused Washington, D.C. issues, which do not link to what's happening at home. So I can't impress on people watching this enough that you are not represented in Washington, D.C. because pretty much you're forgotten about.
I'm going to play this short clip because I noticed, like, if you say that or I say pretty much anything, it's anti-Semitism. But I heard Trump say this on a stage, and I guess a lot of people don't consider it anti-Semitism because he, takes money from that lobby. So I guess it's okay when he says this. It's a real quick clip.
My father would tell me the most powerful lobby that there is in this country is the Jewish lobby. It's the Israeli lobby.
See, I have that clip loaded up because I'll always be like, listen, I can't say this. I don't want to say it. I condemn Trump for his anti-Semitism, but then I click that button because, he says that as well. And I find something interesting, definitely with both parties, but I think like the GOP seems like way more obsessed with Israel, at least like overtly for their fans. I think the Democrats are, they just like hide it. They kind of do this weird thing where, say, Dave Smith or Norm Finkelstein, or there's a bunch of like rabbis who have organizations like that are trying to say like, we're not Israel, right? We're our own religion, we're our own ethnic group. And they kind of try to pressure those people into liking Israel. So they passed this IHRA speech definition, which says you can't say Americans have dual loyalty. Jewish Americans have dual loyalty to Israel, right? You can't suppose that they do. But then the GOP, especially, but the Uniparty, they try to force Jewish Americans into having loyalty to Israel, where it's like they almost don't want them to just be an American citizen first. Like they hate Dave Smith because I don't think Dave is self-hating at all. He's not a liberal. He's just a Jewish American who prioritizes America over Israel. And it seems like for some reason the donor class and the political class, they like hate Americans like that who are Americans. That's what everybody from any country, like we don't want people from Somalia or Mexico caring about Mexico or Somalia first, but for some reason the GOP wants that of a different group for some reason.
Well, I would argue they actually want everyone to have a dual loyalty. They want all of us to have a dual loyalty when it comes to America and Israel. And that's really the issue that's being exposed. Look at Mike Huckabee. This is the U.S. ambassador to a foreign country, to Israel, and he is completely exposed, has in his own words, has shown that his loyalty is to Israel, the foreign country that he's assigned to on behalf of the United States, on behalf of the American people. That's a problem. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he falls in the very, very same boat as Mike Huckabee. I think if he were ever interviewed by, say, Tucker Carlson, people would be shocked to hear what he has to say. But it's that way for most members of Congress. Literally, I tell you, when I tell you only 6 people voted for an amendment to defund American tax dollars from Israel, only 6 members of Congress out of 435. The problem is big. And here's the thing: it's like, we don't hate Israel. We don't hate Jewish people. I don't dislike anybody. But I'm unapologetically for America, and I'm unapologetically for Americans and for the future of our country. And that includes Jewish Americans. That's for every single American. And I just got to the point where I really don't give a shit anymore. I don't care what the names, they can call me whatever names they want to call me. But I just refused in my capacity as a member of Congress to have this dual loyalty, and I spoke it publicly. And then when it came down to the Epstein files, it was shocking to me that I had to fight the president, who I supported pretty much more than any Republican in Washington. I had to fight Donald Trump on the issue of releasing the Epstein files, to the point that is what broke our relationship. And he called me a traitor for keeping my name on the discharge petition and forcing that out for a vote, forced it. Right. And I wasn't a traitor to the country. He called me that because he considered me a traitor to him for forcing the Epstein files out. And then somehow that's anti-Semitic. So I think they've exposed themselves. This is only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And I think I'll say this also, and it's important to point out, they are the ones creating anti-Semitism in America. Mark Levin is creating anti-Semitism by his nasty name calling and in the language he speaks and his brazen talk on Fox News. And I find that repulsive. And it's people on social media like Laura Loomer and others that are creating anti-Semitism. And it's the administration themselves who are so out in the open, completely going back on the campaign promises of no more foreign wars, no more regime change, literally to the point where they are bowing down in support to Israel and willing to start a war with Iran, which we're literally seemingly on the verge of seeing that happen. But those are the things that are creating anti-Semitism. And I think it's only going to get worse.
Well, just to, do journalism, what do you say to them who would say, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's Tucker Carlson, it's their rhetoric, it's your language, it's your attitude that's creating anti-Semitism. What do you say to that?
It's just a lie. And I think people see right through it. And Tucker and I both, I'm very good friends with Tucker. I think he's great. I support him 100%. And the way he is being attacked proves to people that Tucker's not anti-Semitic. I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't hate anybody. I'm a Christian. I'm unapologetically a Christian. I will not accept the heresy that I have to support Israel being in the land in order to go to heaven. That's a lie. That's a heresy. It's a complete lie, and no Christian should believe that. God, if people that study the Bible, if you study it carefully, yes, God delivered his people into the land, but he also took them out of the land when they were disobedient. And that is shown over and over again in the Old Testament. But there's a difference. There's a difference in the modern nation state of Israel today. And the modern nation state of Israel today was created by man. That was not created by God. God did not come down and tell a prophet, tell your people that I'm putting you back in the land. That didn't happen in the 19th century. That happened in the Old Testament. It was man alone that created the nation state of Israel, that created that government. And so for American Christians to fall into the heresy that they have to somehow support the nation state, the government of Israel, over the fact that Jesus died on a cross and rose 3 days later, and ascended into heaven as a one-time sacrifice for our sins. Those Christians are very confused, and they need to look. If you're a Christian, your Savior is Jesus, not the government of Israel. And that is an important fact that cannot be overstated enough for American Christians. And the other thing that has really opened my eyes is learning about the Christian persecution that's happening in Israel. It's happening routinely. And no, it's not happening just at the hands of Muslims or Hamas or terrorists. It's happening at the hands of Jewish settlers and the IDF. And that they are persecuted constantly, day in and day out. They're spit on. Settlers take their homes. I saw a video just recently this past week where their homes were set on fire where they were still inside, and that was by Jewish settlers. Christians have been killed by IDF soldiers for years and years now. And these are Palestinian Christians. And so American Christians are used to being that we have to be mad at Muslims and radical Islam. But you also have to look at the other side. They are persecuted almost equally by people in Israel, and it's just totally wrong. And so I think that's a result of it. I'm not blaming anyone. That's a result of the propaganda and the framing of the narrative that we have all been fed for decades. As long as I can remember, that was the framing that we have been fed. But I think many people are waking up to it.
I have a question real quick. I mean, they would probably say that's blood libel, right? Because they don't purposely kill Christians. I'm sure they would say. What would you say to that?
You know, it's funny. I didn't even know what blood libel was until not too long ago. That's just not something that any of us think in terms of. We don't think in terms of wanting to hurt someone because of what their genetics are or who they're related to. So I reject that completely. But it is factual that Christians are being persecuted, are being killed in Israel and in Gaza. There's many Christians that were killed in Gaza, thousands of innocent people killed in Gaza, horrifically killed. And they are suffering today. They're suffering immensely today. They don't have enough food. They don't have enough water. Disease is rampant. They can't get help for all of their medical issues. They're not allowed to leave Gaza if they need cancer treatment or life-saving surgeries. And the facts speak for themselves. So I just believe we're coming in a time where they can't cover it up anymore. They can't show up at your local political meeting or show up at your church and just tell you a story and you believe it. I think we are finally getting to a place, and thankfully, that's probably because of the internet, thankfully because of X, that we're able to see for ourselves that what is really happening.
One thing I've noticed, and one of the reasons I think Israel's lost a lot of support, is they almost want you to agree with like every single thing that they do. For example, I can say I love America and our military, but I think we shouldn't have struck that, prayer circle in Yemen, or and for the most part, obviously not everyone will like it, but they'll be like, okay, yeah, that doesn't mean you hate America. But when it comes to Israel, like pretty much if you say they ever did anything purposely ever, it's blood libel, and if you ever disagree with them, they'll just say it's anti-Semitism. So they almost leave no room. It's almost like completely agree with every single thing that we do, to a level that I don't even have to do that with my own government. Like I don't like Joe Biden, to be honest. I don't really like Trump anymore. I don't like the GOP, even though I'm a Republican. I don't like the Democrats, but I have to like this foreign country and think that they've never done anything purposely bad. It's like this, really weird rule. And real quick, I know there's a lot to talk about, but I wanted to just play this quick clip of Trump calling you a traitor. And then I'm going to do my fantastic Trump impression after to ask you the question. Just react to this in live time. Here's just 2 clips of Trump, basically going after you in interviews and on stages.
Marjorie, Traitor Brown, I call her, because green turns to brown under stress.
Her life could be in danger because of the rhetoric.
Her life is in danger? Who's that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, she says.
Marjorie Traitor Greene. I don't think her life is in danger. Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her.
So Marjorie Traitor Brown, green turns to brown. Okay, that's what happens when colors change over time. What's your response to him, saying those things to you? Obviously, I'm sure it's not cool to see that.
No. Well, if you notice the first clip you played, he didn't get a reaction from the audience like he thought he would. He's used to going out and attacking people and calling them names, and then the rally crowd will cheer and laugh or whatever. He didn't get that reaction at that event. And then he threw it out there again to the media, but he wasn't facing a crowd. But that's typical Donald Trump. Donald Trump he's a bully, and he resorts to name calling and calling the media fake news if they don't go along with everything he's saying. And he resorts to name calling when he's lying. And it's a pattern that's become very recognizable over and over again. So the only thing, he knows he's wrong. He knows that he was the main one fighting to stop the release of the Epstein files, and we beat him when we finally got 218 signatures on the discharge petition, and the House voted on it, and the Republicans had to vote for it because you, the American people, had gotten so outraged over the issue. I think that's what I need to say most importantly to everyone watching. It was you, the American people, and your outrage and not letting go of this issue that gave us power to push it across the line. Right. And it is exactly why President Trump had to eventually sign it into law. He didn't want to. He didn't support releasing those files. He called me a traitor because I pushed it that far. And he told me on the phone that his friends would get hurt. And well, we've seen a lot of his friends come out in this list, even though the official list, I don't have the list, the women do, but the official list that really needs to come out hasn't totally come out. I don't think we're going to see the rest of the files. I think there's over 3 million more files released. I'm not sure if we're going to see the rest of those come out. And no accountability. There'll be no accountability. If there's accountability, it'll be just a fake, basically. But I think for Donald Trump, he has to call me names because there's a difference in the two of us. The things that I said, I meant it. And he's showing that the things that he said on the campaign trail, what he called MAGA, he turned into MIGA, and he has completely turned to serving his biggest donors in Washington, the industries that demand everything in Washington, and fighting foreign wars on behalf of Israel. And it's hard you can't cover that up, no matter how many good lines you throw out at the State of the Union. You can't cover that up.
I know I saw that picture of you and Tucker Carlson with him. I think maybe at the Kentucky Derby or something. That was a cool picture. I think you guys were on good terms. Maybe not, but it seemed like it. And then obviously
2020. That was in 2020 at the Live,
Oh.
no, 2021 maybe. It was early on at the Live golf tournament. Yeah.
So walk me through the exact moment that, like, were you guys, did he always support you fully, or did he just kind of stay out of your way because you were in his way? And then give me like the exact moment that he got pissed at you, like the exact, like what did it exactly?
I supported Trump fully. See, that's really how it all started. In 2020, I didn't know Donald Trump. I was running for Congress, and I was MAGA, and I believed all the great things he said at rallies. I went to rallies before I even became a candidate. I was like one of those regular people that would go to a Trump rally. I loved it. I mean, I ate it all up. I was a true believer in every sense, purely a true believer. Like I said, I spent over $1 million on my own campaign and ran for Congress. I believed it so much. I thought, boy, we need regular people that are going to get into Congress and actually do what President Trump says we need to do. I mean, that was my mindset. And I gave him my support for free. And then he gave me his support while he was not president, while he was trying to get reelected. And I think there's a difference there. I campaigned all over the country for the man for years, literally 2021, 2022, 23, and 24. I traveled the country and spent millions of my own dollars giving speeches, campaigning for him, never letting go of the fact that he's the leader of the Republican Party. He's our president. We're going to make him president again.
Right.
And his support was given to me based on all of that. Now, when did he stop supporting me?
Or when did he first like say like Marjorie traitor Greene? Like what was the exact moment that made him want to like post on True Social in a very, I'm sure it was very long, you know, he likes to do paragraphs that nobody wants to read, but when, like, what was that? Do you remember the exact thing that spurred that? There had to be like a moment.
It was the Epstein files. We finally voted to release the Epstein files. That was when he called me a traitor, was when what my hard work and my fight, when I beat him, he called me a traitor. And it was when we released the Epstein files.
Did you personally like push him on it, or was it just you publicly, you think, talking about it in interviews saying like, we got to get these out? Like, was there like a specific moment, or was it just the release of them?
No, I had pushed him I had asked him to have the Epstein victims in the Oval Office. I was like, you need to meet with them. These women voted for him. Many of the Epstein victims that I met personally in Washington, D.C. supported Donald Trump for president and voted for the man. Not only that, they would tell me he didn't do anything wrong. And their attorney said that he was the only one that helped them. And that, you know, I'm listening to these women and I'm like, oh my gosh, Donald Trump, the president, he has everybody in the Oval Office. He has athletes, he has celebrities, he has victims of all kinds in the Oval Office and talks with them and takes pictures with them and gives a speech with them. And I had tried to encourage him, have these women in the Oval Office. You should bring them in. They're victims and they support you and they claim that you're the only one that helped them. It never made any sense to me why he was why he rejected that. And I had urged him, we got to release the Epstein files. I mean, the Epstein files represented basically everything that fell in the category of transparency and drain the swamp and go after the people behind the scenes that never get held accountable. That's what the Epstein files represented. And to me, it was very core to what MAGA was all about. So I went into fighting to release the Epstein files for like, this is it. This is literally one of the biggest things we've been all trying to get done for years. So for me, it shocked me, like totally shocked me that he was the one that fought it so hard. He told Mike Johnson, don't bring that bill to the floor for a vote. He wouldn't let the Rules Committee do anything on the Epstein files. He was threatening our Oversight Committee, Judiciary Committee, threatening like, do not allow anything, don't do anything on the Epstein files. It was all coming from the president and the White House, the pressure on Congress. So it was a big fight. It was such a big fight that when the government shut down for 8 weeks, it was the Senate that shut down the government. They were the ones playing the stupid games about funding the government. But the House, we didn't have to be shut down. Mike Johnson shut down the House of Representatives for 8 weeks in that government shutdown, and it was all to stop that discharge petition from releasing that bill to vote to release the Epstein files. It was the biggest fight you've ever seen. And that's what led to him calling me a traitor. It was when we finally voted on that discharge petition, and we finally voted on the bill, and the House overwhelmingly passed it. And then it went to the Senate, and they passed it too. And then he had to sign it. He had to. And yeah, that's what made me a traitor.
Well, that's one time I think people won against the establishment, and probably the establishment above the establishment, because if you look at the emails, like everyone was in them. Howard Lutnick's stories didn't add up to what he told, on a podcast. I think Elon's stories didn't add up. I like Elon, but what he said and versus the emails, you have, Epstein reaching out to Peter Thiel saying he represents the Rothschilds. Like you had so much in there, and it showed so much. So obviously they didn't want that out. Was there a moment that you realized, like, Trump has like he's probably said to you, like he has so many friends and acquaintances in those emails that, maybe he feels that the emails are going to misrepresent what happened and that his friends are going to suffer in their public relations? Like, I guess that you didn't care. You were like, I don't really care.
I don't care. I could care less about any of that. I suffered. I would argue I've suffered in public for big time. I've been slandered, lied about, attacked ever since I became a member of Congress. To me, it didn't matter. If you're innocent, prove you're innocent. If you're guilty, there should be justice. There should be accountability. I think what the Epstein files exposed for everyone is what we all really knew existed, and what I had learned existed when I went to Washington is you cannot reach the highest levels of power unless you are supported by the most powerful people in the country and the most powerful and richest people in the world. They will not let you become president of the United States unless you have their support. And that is the harsh reality I think America needs to swallow down. Is you think you get to pick and choose who's in charge, but you really don't. You really don't. And that's, I think, one of the saddest things to realize. You vote election cycle after election cycle. You donate money. You might be so hardcore, you campaign for people. You knock doors. You write letters. You make phone calls. But the people that you send to Washington become completely controlled by Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. isn't America's capital. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the entire world. And that world, that veil was pulled aside by the glimpses that people have seen in the Epstein files. That's really the world that controls the most powerful government on earth, which is our federal government and the White House in Washington, D.C. And I think that's the hardest reality that maybe many people kind of figured out. And it's the hardest reality I think that a lot of people are grappling with.
I agree with you. I've done the research to pretty much put the pieces together, but just to give you the counter and what a lot of people are saying, a lot of people in MAGA are saying, Marjorie, you're selling out our president. He's the real deal. You're not. You're going to The View. Like what's up with that? Like, so what do you say to that? That's a lot of my Facebook page, like the over 50 Trump crowd.
Yeah, the brainwashed boomers that watch Fox News 24/7. Yeah, God bless them. We could do a whole other podcast on boomers. I'm at the point right now, they're my parents' generation and I love them, but I literally blame every problem we have right now on the boomers. Yeah, so what I have to say about that is, look, it's actions don't meet words. And for like I'm Generation X. I don't know, you might be a millennial.
Yeah.
Millennial. Okay. So I'm kind of like your big sister or your older cousin that that might have held you down and wrestled you in the living room, gave you a wedgie when mom and them weren't looking. And but I'm also that same big sister or older cousin that would beat the shit out of anybody on the playground that messed with you. So that's kind of me. Like I'm probably like that. But here's how I feel about it is I think my generation, your generation, and Gen Z, we are all, your actions have to meet your words. Like, we don't give a shit about what you campaign on, what you say. If you don't follow through on it, then we no longer trust you and no longer believe you. And my actions met my words in Washington, to the point where I resigned from office because I refused to be treated that way by the president, who I played a major role in helping that man get elected. Also, the Republican Party, I felt very betrayed by the Republican Party. I donated so much money to the Republican Party. Every members of Congress, we have to pay our dues. We have dues we have to pay to the NRCC, and the Democrats pay their dues to the DCCC. And my dues every Congress were hundreds of thousands of dollars. And very few members of Congress ever pay their full dues. I paid all of mine up front at the beginning of every Congress while I was in Washington. And then I even paid more to support the party. But I didn't get one Republican come out and say publicly, Mr. President, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not a traitor. She's fought for you. She has fought for the Republican Party. I fought for the majority. So for me, it was, you know what, I'm not going to stay in there and be treated like they're treating Thomas Massie right now. It makes me sick. Thomas Massie is a great patriot. He's a good friend of mine. I'm not going to be treated like that. I'm not going to have to beat the president and the establishment Republicans in my district again, have to beat them again like I did in 2020, just to go back and be told to defend them after we lose the midterms, and fight to defend Trump from impeachment after he would have treated me that way. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And then the second part is I refused to step in line. I can't. It's not who I am. I'm not going to give up my own things I believe in, and also go against my own faith in order to step in line in Washington, D.C., just so I can keep power, just so I can maintain, I'm a member of Congress. I'm a congresswoman. Like, that's not what I value. And I think that's everything wrong in Washington. These guys, every member of Congress pretty much will do anything. They will betray their principles over and over again, just to keep wearing that little pin and just to keep being called congressman. And to me, that represents everything wrong in our country. And unfortunately, the boomers, who, by the way, have been in charge for decades now, they have created our nearly $40 trillion in debt. They did that. They have gone to all these foreign wars. They did that. They are the ones that support big pharma, all this insanity, attacks on our food supply, our health, COVID vaccines, all of that. That was the boomers. That's the boomer generation. And so, for the boomers that want to trash me or whatever because you're lapping up all the slop they're throwing at you on Fox News, I can't help you. But what they're doing is they're ruining our future, and they're ruining their grandchildren's future. And I would just urge the boomers to open their eyes. You're being manipulated and you're being used. You're used for your donations and you're used for your vote, and nothing ever changes. It's like a slow slide, and it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah, I agree. And I got a few more questions. I appreciate your time, but real quick on that note, the people that don't like you would say, and we just went over that, but like, Marjorie, you quit, but also your supporters like myself, not that I'm saying this, but I actually like you. I'm not a boomer, but they're saying, like, why not stay? Why not fight like Thomas Massie? A lot of people, it's not that they're demanding that you did. They're just disappointed because there's only a few people in Congress we like. So now we're down one short. What's your, like, why not do what Thomas Massie does and just try to fight it? Like, you just didn't want to?
Because I fought it for 5 years and it's all broken. Nothing changed. I fought it for 5 years and it got worse. And I got to a point where I was literally killing myself, fighting on a battlefield, basically alone, like me and Thomas Massey and a few others every now and then out there fighting day in and day out, getting punched every single day, punched and beaten. It's a horrible life. Like living in Washington, D.C. most of the year, being away from my family, my friends, missing out on every event that I enjoyed, like social events, normal things, normal parts of my life. Having to stay in Washington, D.C. and keep fighting while I'll say this back, while people at home like you and everyone else, you're enjoying your life. I never got to enjoy my life while I was fighting. And so, I have a little bit of resentment when people say, you shouldn't have quit. You should have stayed in there and kept fighting. I'm like, well, where the fuck are you? Where were you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean this offensively to anyone, but posting on social media it helps because you push your opinion out, but it's not stopping anything. None of it is stopping. Me voting no over and over and over again on these certain bills didn't stop anything. People using their voice on social media, it hasn't stopped anything. None of it is stopping anything. And I think that's the reality that I realized, and it was eye-opening, is I can spend my entire life, throw away my entire life in Washington, D.C., lose my relationship with my own children and my mother and my very dear friends, lose every part of me because I'm in Washington and I'm fighting. And guess what? Our country goes to hell anyways. So I was like, okay, when I piled all this together, I looked at it and guess what? I signed the term limit bill. I was a co-sponsor every year. I believe in term limits. I don't believe in career politicians. So again, I actually put my own beliefs and actions into words, and I was like, fine, if you all want to treat me this way, the president wants to treat me this way, the Republican Party wants to treat me this way, and I'm out here on a battlefield virtually by myself, day in and day out, getting murdered. No, I don't have to be here anymore. And I think that's the message I want to tell everyone else is you're getting the shit beat out of you. They don't respect you. They don't care about you. They gaslight you and try to get you to they scare you into you got to vote, or oh no, the Democrats are going to do this if we don't keep the midterms, and oh no, it's like
Right.
When everyone decides to stop participating in that system and finally burns it to the ground, that's when it'll be time to fight. That is when it'll be time for everyone to go to the battlefield and say, no, we will not tolerate this anymore. The system has failed everyone, both sides. I don't care if you're a Democrat voter, Republican voter, independent, it's failing everyone. But when we finally, as the American people, get to that point, oh yeah, I'll get engaged. I would get engaged in the biggest way I possibly could, but I don't see that happening. It's not happening. And until it does, guess what? I've decided, you know what? I've got to put some time back in my own family, into my own self. And I'm waiting for the American people. I really am.
I guess I'll ask you this question because, yeah, you definitely put your time in Congress, and I think it's up to you. It's not anyone else's life or decision. So obviously, some people are disappointed that you're not there, but you definitely put in a lot of work. On that note, I know you said that after Trump tweeted or True Socialed and called you a traitor, that you were getting a lot of threats and maybe the burden of not really having a team. I always try to explain it to my audience. It's like, imagine if you're the Los Angeles Lakers and you're playing the New York Knicks, but it's like the Lakers are scoring on their own basket. That's why I talk about the GOP more. The Democrats are the other side, but if our team is purposely making us lose every game, like that's more important to talk about because it's impossible to win. Like I know you're under a lot of stuff. How come you're doing a lot, like a podcast tour? I'm not saying you're doing a tour, but you're doing a lot of stuff. Like since the burden of Congress was heavy, like, are you just inspired to talk? Because that's what some people I think are wondering, like, okay, the pressure of Congress is super high, but now you're outside of it. Like, did you want to just go away for a minute, or are you like, no, I want to just keep just like saying what I believe now that I'm not even in Congress?
I'm one of the biggest believers in free speech, and I will use my voice because I think it's important for me to keep talking. It's important for me to inform all of you on here's what it's really like in Congress. Here's what really happens. Here's the truth, because I think it's important to inform the American people in order to hopefully for us to get to a point where there is real accountability for our government leaders to the American people. There needs to be accountability. And so I think it's important for me to keep speaking about that. And being on the inside, it wasn't making a difference. And so I'm hoping being on the outside that I can somehow make a difference. But yeah, there were really bad death threats that came on myself and, more importantly, my own children after the president that I supported, helped get elected, donated to, campaigned all over the country, and fought for, called me a traitor because I refused to do what he said and take my name off the discharge petition. Yeah, so when your own children get serious death threats because you're fighting and trying to do the right thing, I think anybody that's critical of me needs to consider being in my shoes and what that is really like. And then I'll also say this is, if anyone's critical of me, run for Congress, get in there, do it yourself. You can't really throw stones if you're not willing to do it yourself. And so, I'll cheer you on. Go ahead,
Completely
declare
fair.
you're a candidate and get elected. See how hard that is. And then go into Washington and see if you can change it. I certainly gave it my all. But I think my position right now going forward is we need to have a talk, and it needs to be real talk all the time. And the real talk is this is the American people, you're not being served by your government. Your government is serving the biggest donors to the White House. Your government is serving foreign countries. Your government is serving the major industries, and your government is not serving you. You can't afford your health insurance. You can't afford your car insurance. You can't afford your home insurance. You probably can't afford to buy a house. The future for your jobs may be replaced by AI, which this administration is supporting almost more than Israel, but is supporting AI, and that's a future replacement of your jobs. If you're Maha, what you got is the opposite of what you expected. And I'm not even fully blaming Bobby Kennedy. I don't even think it's his fault. The lobbyists, the insurance companies, and Big Pharma are in control of that. And that's coming directly from the White House. That's not RFK Jr.'s fault. Right. And I just think it's important to acknowledge this, because guess what? The boomers that created this problem, I'll go back to them again, that lap up their garbage on Fox News. Over the next 10 years, they're going to be gone. And it's me and you and Gen Z that are going to be sitting here in this giant pile of shit that they have created. So I'm not going to stop talking, no matter how many bots are assigned to my social media and swarm and attack me in comments. I'm not going to be quiet about it.
Yeah, I love your social media. I want you to be able to answer the critics here, because I've seen a lot of stuff and I've never heard you answer it. It's a very small amount. I think most smart people appreciate what you're doing, obviously, as myself. But they're saying, I know you said you owned a construction company, but they're saying Marjorie got rich off stocks in Congress. She waited until her pension was, approved by government, and that's why she bounced out now. Like, she just wants to go live and be rich. That's what your haters are saying. What's your response?
Well, I was quite wealthy before I became a member of Congress, thanks to the American dream, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I worked very hard for many years, and I'm proud of our family's success and very proud of our company. And that was before Congress. And then to the rest of it, I think that was made up by Laura Loomer, the self-declared great independent journalist. That she calls herself. That, by the way, the White House won't even give her a press pass she's not credentialed. So this great so-called journalist, Laura Loomer, is not even allowed to have a hard pass to the White House and go to the Caroline Leavitt press briefings. Isn't that interesting? But yeah, no, that is all a lie that was fabricated. Did I have stock investments? Of course I did, because that's what you do with your money is you invest it. But I also signed years ago a fiduciary agreement, and I have someone that handles those investments for me. So all of my any stocks that I bought, sold, any of my investments were all done on my behalf without my knowledge. And many of the times I found out about them when they hit the newspapers, or I saw it on social media, which was something that I actually thought was pretty funny is, oh, I'm getting attacked for buying Walmart stock. And I didn't even know I bought Walmart stock, but my financial advisor had done that for me. Another thing being criticized on that, the hypocrisy of it all, is when I was in Congress, I was the fastest, my team was the fastest to file my investments with the FEC. So pages like Unusual Whales, which, by the way, Unusual Whales is a stock trading company themselves, and they use their social media page to try to get clients. So that's their whole marketing strategy, is attacking all members of Congress for stock trading in order to prop up their own company. But companies like Unusual Whales was able to talk about my trades because I reported them the fastest, and I wanted it that way. I wanted full transparency. So I didn't know about my trades. I didn't make my trades, but I also had told my compliance team to report them immediately. And I'm not sorry for that. And I didn't make money in Congress. I actually lost a lot of money in Congress. It's unbelievable because you live under strict rules. You also have to have 2 homes. I had to have a home in my district, have to have a home in Washington, D.C., traveling back and forth constantly. I know people I'm not asking for anybody's compassion on that, but that is the reality, and it's very expensive. So no, I didn't make my money in Congress. I made my money in the construction industry. I'm very proud of that. And thankful. That's what I think most Americans should be able to do.
Is the pension thing true? I don't care. I mean, I don't care who gets a pension or not, but is that a real thing that people in government get?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's by law. I was not allowed to opt out of it. That's something people can look up. So it wasn't something I chose. It was a system that was in place before I ever got there. And they take 4% of our congressional salary. Our congressional salary is $174,000 a year. They take 4% of it by law. Like I never could say no, I don't want to. And they invest it in this government pension. And so everybody has one. As a matter of fact, people that were there, I think members that were there more than 10 years ago, they were able to opt out of they were grandfathered in, and I think a smaller percentage of theirs goes in the pension, but they still have a big pension. But the pensions are not just for members of Congress, it's the entire federal government. So if you work for Homeland, you work for TSA, you work for the State Department, anybody, if you work for the federal government, you have the same pension, right. And the same investment. And so there's another thing that people don't know about, and that's called a TSA account. Now, the TSA account is also an investment program for members of Congress, senators, but also federal government employees. And that is actually money that you can willingly invest. You can say, take a certain percentage of my paycheck every month and invest it in the TSA program. And I'm sorry, not TSA, TSP. I'm saying that wrong. TSP, the TSP program. And it gets invested in the TSP program, and it is stock trading. It's the same thing that I do personally. They take a percentage of your check, they put it into an account. You have a financial advisor that invests your money on your behalf, same way I have privately. And they invest your money, and it's stocks, bonds, it's whatever they choose. And that's the other, people think pensions are a big deal. No, the TSP accounts is where a lot of wealth is made for not only members of Congress and senators, but all federal government employees. The TSP account is actually what all Americans should have. And I was in the process of trying to work up legislation before I left Congress. I was in the process. I said the TSP accounts should be what everyone has instead of Social Security. So right now we're getting ripped off with Social Security. It's going to be completely bankrupt by 2033. Gone. They're doing nothing about it. It's going to be bankrupt by 2033. That's only 7 years from now. But all federal government employees and members of Congress and senators, don't worry about the pensions. They all have TSP accounts where there's a dramatic amount of wealth made because their money is continually invested in the stock market with bonds and treasury bills, et cetera. And that's where a vast amount of wealth is made for retirement if you're a federal government employee. Well, that was what I was pushing and saying, we need to convert everybody's Social Security account. That all Americans should have a TSP account. Everybody, because by the time you'd hit retirement, you would have tons of money. Instead of bringing in like what some people get less than $1,000 for their Social Security checks. They might get $1,500 for Social Security, and that's not enough to retire on, especially given the fact that Congress screwed the whole thing up, and at this rate it's going to be bankrupt in 2033.
Yeah, I think lobbying's a way bigger issue in government. I just wanted you to be able to explain and talk for yourself,
Oh
so
yeah,
so
no,
people
I'm
don't
glad.
tell the story for you. Last one, real quick, and then I just have quick rapid fire ones. I know, I don't really follow Steve Bannon that much, but he said a lot of interesting stuff over the last couple of years, and I see kind of clips on X, and I was like, oh man, he seems like he's speaking a lot of truth. And then kind of his involvement with Epstein, the interviews and stuff kind of came out. How do you feel about that? And perhaps critics who say you're going tougher on Trump than Steve?
Oh, I think I've talked about Steve Bannon before, but I'm happy to talk about it again. I've been on his show many, many times, and I myself was surprised to see him in the Epstein files, and honestly, really shocked that he would be so close and friends with Jeffrey Epstein, especially in 2018 and 2019. This is years post being a convicted pedophile. This was Jeffrey Epstein at 2018 and 2019 was one of the most toxic people on the planet publicly. So I find it extremely shocking that Steve Bannon was, and the files show it, their messages show it. They were obviously friends. They traveled together. Seemingly Jeffrey Epstein was setting him up with all types of connections all over the world. And Jeffrey Epstein's sphere of influence, I guess. And then Steve Bannon was making a video or a movie that was supposed to somehow clean up Jeffrey Epstein's reputation. Like, why would anybody do that? I don't understand why anyone would want to help Jeffrey Epstein clean up his we don't help pedophiles clean up their reputation. We expose them for what they are and make sure everyone knows who they are anywhere they go. And so, no, I certainly can't comprehend that relationship and completely do not understand it. And I think it should be addressed.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what he says about it because I haven't heard him say anything. I want to do a quick speed round just for like shorter content, and you can answer in one word or as short as you want, but I want to just go over some things like, who is your favorite person in Washington?
Thomas Massey.
Least favorite person in Washington?
Ooh, that's hard. I don't know. That list is a little long for me to have a least favorite.
Fair. Favorite person in media?
Tucker Carlson.
Least favorite person in media?
Least favorite. Gosh, that's a long list too. They haven't treated me very nicely.
Fair. Favorite place you visited in the United States?
That's hard. I'm not a favorites person, but I am an outdoors person. So I just love to go. I love hiking. I love beautiful nature. North Georgia mountains are absolutely stunning. One of the best kept secrets there is, I think.
Your best accomplishment in Washington legislation wise?
Oh, thank you for asking. My last day in office, the last vote I took was passing my own bill, Protect Children's Innocence Act, which makes it a felony to perform any gender affirming or transitioning of children under the age of 18 years old. My bill actually passed the House on my last day. It was my last vote, and it's sitting collecting dust in the Senate because Leader Thune is a coward.
Your best accomplishment in Washington outside of legislation, just in general, you think?
Oh, exposing roll call votes. I did that in 21 and 22. Forcing Congress to vote on records so that people could see how their members of Congress voted instead of allowing bills to pass by voice. I would sit on the House floor for hours, and every time they try to pass a bill by voice, I would run to the microphone and say, Mr. Speaker, I ask for the yeas and nays.
Your favorite memory of Trump? Good memory.
Good memory. Oh, I've got some good ones because he is a really likable guy. I flew with him a couple times, going across the country and campaigning with him. Had dinner with him multiple times. But I love the old campaign Trump when he's going at it and just saying all the things that we love to hear him say. Those were good times.
Your least favorite memory of Trump?
Least favorite memory of Trump would be him yelling at me on the phone, demanding me take my name off the discharge petition, and screaming at me and cursing at me.
Well, I won't hold you up too much longer. Thank you so much for your time, Marjorie. I want to say personally, I wanted to obviously let you speak a lot, go through your journey of Congress, ask you some questions that I agree with, ask you some tough questions. But me personally, I appreciate you as an American. I appreciated you as a Congresswoman, and I really do appreciate your voice. I think you're a massive, massive net positive, and it's very courageous to talk about a lot of the things you do. I know why most people don't want to. And me personally, like I said, I really appreciate you. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. I've been a longtime follower of yours, by the way, going back before I ever ran for Congress. So thank you for using your voice like you always have.
Thank you. And any last words for people, like what to look for me or what to expect from you or where they can support you now that you're out?
I don't have any major plans. Just planning to use my voice when I want to on social media right now and catching up with regular family life. I guess if I left you guys with one thing is put your phone down more often and enjoy real life, because real life is really where it's at.
Amen. But if you are on your phone, follow her on Twitter. She's got some really great tweets, and that's where I see her stuff. Thank you so much.